Hey, what's up? I'm Fyrax, and today we are going to be comparing the crossbow and the bow in Rust. Which one should you use, and in which scenario? Stay tuned to find out. Let's get started. So for all the newcomers to Rust, the bow is one of the most basic weapons that you can use, that's easy to craft, and can be very effective if used properly. But once you gather a few more resources, you'll soon be able to craft yourself a crossbow. And I know a lot of people prefer using the bow over the crossbow, even though, on paper, the stats of the crossbow are better, except one thing, it's reload time. So, what exactly should you use the crossbow for, and what exactly should you use the bow for? So to start off, the bow costs 200 wood and 50 cloth to build, and the crossbow costs 200 wood, 75 metal fragments, and 2 rope. So as you can see here, the cost of the crossbow is significantly higher considering you need metal fragments to build it, and for that you need a furnace. So is the crossbow worth it over the regular bow? Well, it depends, like I said, on the different types of scenarios and encounters that you're going to have. For the average person, the bow is a better bet because if you miss a shot, you can get a second shot off a lot faster than with the crossbow, which means that the bow is a lot more forgiving for people that don't have amazing aim. So now let's take a look at the different statistics that you can get for both of these weapons. So if we look at the bow, we can see that the reload time is 2.75 seconds, which means you can fire many more arrows at your target, so that's a little bit better, especially for encounters where you have a lot of movement. If you compare that to the crossbow, which has a 4.783 second reload, that's a very long reload, so you better be on top of your aim if you want to get a kill with this thing, unless you're lucky enough to get a headshot. So when you consider the fact that when you spawn in game, you have a maximum of 60 health, and most players or butt-naked people are going to be running around with 60 health. So if you do have a crossbow, you just need a body shot or a chest shot here, as you can see, to get a basic player down on the ground. But most people are either going to be healed, and most people don't want to shoot at naked people because, they generally don't have anything, and most people feel a little bit of pity towards them, which I completely understand. I don't like killing butt-naked people either. But you can see you get more damage off with the crossbow. However, with the bow, you get a 46 to 55 damage to the chest. So that's not bad considering it'll only take basically 2 to 3 arrows if the person is not wearing any armor and is full health to down him. And then you can see for the arms and legs that the crossbow does a bit more damage, but it's nothing amazing either. But when you look at the headshot damage, that's when you see that the crossbow can excel, especially if you're a very good player and have very good aim. You can basically down anybody with a headshot with the crossbow. And let's say have very heavy armor on, most people are going to go down immediately. Whereas if you're lucky enough or skilled enough to get a headshot with your bow, you're still not guaranteed that kill. Which means that if you have a bow and you're fighting against somebody with a crossbow whose aim is very good, you're probably going to lose the fight. But considering that most people's aim is not 100%, and that during combat there's generally a lot of movement and a lot of missed shots, the person with the bow is more likely to win, because for every shot fired with the crossbow, the person with the bow can basically shoot 2 arrows because of the difference in reload times. So is there any reason to use the crossbow? Well, I personally think yes, especially for long-range kills, because if you look at the statistics for the range of the crossbow and the bow, you can see that the bow only has 150 meter range, whereas the crossbow has a 2,500 meter range, which is technically even further than the bolt-action rifle, which is about a 900 meter range. Though I don't think A, you're ever going to hit somebody at that range, and B, the damage drop-off is just going to make your shot kind of pointless. But if you already have a small base going and you want to defend it, or you see somebody that you want to, quote, snipe, you'll be way better at it with a crossbow than with a bow. And considering that the crossbow can have scopes on it, which, I think it's a little bit ridiculous if you put the 4x scope, But the new scope that was recently added in the game that only costs 6 high quality metal can be very effective at aiming with the crossbow, especially at a longer distance, which, I mean, increases your aim, and considering that the bow cannot have any scopes or sights on it, it's of course going to be less accurate. And even the random deviation of the arrows is more significant on the bow than on the crossbow. So then there's one last thing to consider when using the bow and the crossbow, is which type of arrow should you use? Well, the normal arrow is probably your best bet for the bow, because you don't necessarily need the high velocity arrow for the distance that you're going to be shooting your bow at. You're not going to see a significant difference between the high velocity arrow and the regular arrow for the bow, because, I mean, the distance is kind of close generally when you're using a bow, and the damage drop off of the high velocity arrows is too much of a downgrade compared to the normal arrows that you use. So you should probably use the normal arrows for the bow. However, for the crossbow, it's a completely different story. Because the crossbow can be used at greater ranges than the bow, the high velocity arrow can be useful because it means you'll have to lead your target a lot less, and it'll be easier to hit targets at a greater range. Though you still have to consider that the high velocity arrow does less damage, but then it's kind of a balance of, do I want to do more damage and have a greater chance of missing my shot, or do I want to do less damage but at least hit my target? So that really depends. If you're using the crossbow for close quarter combat, then the regular arrow is fine, but if you're like camping on the top of your base, on the roof, then the high velocity arrow is probably best, unless the target is just right under your base. So to sum up what we said today, the bow is probably better for the average person and for all your outings and small scavenge hunts and things like that. But if you are very good with your aim, or you're fighting a target that's at a greater distance, then the crossbow is probably better for you. And then the regular arrow should generally always be used on the bow, and then for the crossbow, either the regular arrow if you have very good aim and you want to deal maximum damage, and then the high velocity arrow if you're dealing with targets at a greater distance and are afraid of missing the shot. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you liked this video, and leave a comment down below with what you prefer using, the bow or the crossbow. I'll see you guys in the next video.